think this is the first Thursday we've recorded on as well. So hopefully, well, actually, I was going to say we might get this episode out on Saturday, but I've got a wedding this weekend, which goes kind of tomorrow until Friday until Sunday. So it might still be Monday before I can edit and publish.
Sounds like a pretty big event.
Yeah, it's kind of one of the reasons that I'm in Europe over the summer is for this wedding. So a close enough friend of my wife that we're not just there for the wedding, but, you know, setting up the wedding as well.
Right.
And the way the Germans do it is they kind of, well, they have like what's called a Polterabend, which I think that just means a noisy afternoon, like literal translation.
Oh, okay.
Smashing crockery, that sort of thing with the friends. That'll be the Saturday. And then Sunday's the family and closer friends in the church. So yeah, it will fill up the whole weekend.
Nice. Is your wife German?
Yeah, she was born here.
Oh, okay. Well, it sounds like a good excuse to make a whole summer trip out of it.
Exactly, yeah. Shall we push on to the top 5 topics on the r/Apple subreddit? I'm not sure why I call it the r/Apple subreddit. It's just called the Apple subreddit. But I've really got into the bad habit of saying that whole thing. Top 5 posts on the Apple subreddit for the last week or two. And the number one was... Actually, I changed the order. This wasn't the number one, but I thought I'd put it in there first for another reason, which we'll get to. Is that Apple pulls the iOS 12 Beta 7 over-the-air update amid reports of sluggish performance. And they shortly thereafter released Beta 8 on... I think that's Tuesday or Wednesday, so a day or two later. Mm-hmm. The reason I wanted to talk about that, because we had some problems with beta software last time we did the show, missing a little bit of audio after talking about how good the Mojave beta is. Mm-hmm. Can you just pronounce that for me?
Oh, Mojave.
Mojave. Thanks. How do you remember that?
I mean, it's growing up, it's just a common word for me, so it's not something I have to remember.
Okay, I just have to try and remember it's the opposite of Yosemite. It's the other one.
Oh, right.
Mojave, right. I think I got into problems to start with because I listened to another podcast, you know, straight after WWDC, and they said, just remember Yosemite, and it's pronounced the same way. So that just set me off down the wrong track.
Nice. Well, it could be a regional thing, too.
Yeah, I guess so. I'm guessing it's like a native North American word, though. So you probably have to go back to...
Yeah, I'm not sure what the origin of Mojave is.
It's got to be with spelling like that. But from the other side of the world, I'll say no more. I won't make assumptions.
Yeah, it's Native American.
Okay. But anyway, yeah, so we lost a little bit of audio from the first 20 minutes of the show after talking about how good it is. So I decided to upgrade in the end anyway, and I'm now on Mojave, the latest beta as well.
I need to update my Mojave. I got a notification this morning when I started recording that there's a new update available.
Yeah, so I think that would be beta 5 that they're up to. Yeah, I'm pretty sure when I updated it, I updated to beta 4, and then like an hour later, beta 5 came out, which is always the way. So instead of the 45-minute upgrade, it was more like an hour and a half. But I can report that besides one little feature removal, which cost me a couple of hours work, I haven't really had any problems, so it's been rock solid.
What feature did they remove?
Well, have you ever ordered any prints from the Photos app?
Oh, yeah.
You have? All right. Because in High Sierra, if you tried to do that for the last, say, month, every time it's popped up a little warning saying this feature's going to be removed in September. Mm-hmm. So before I did the upgrade, I actually got the order in, and then I did the upgrade to Mojave. And then the next morning, I got an email saying that the order had been cancelled due to some upload issues. So I went back into the Photos app, and of course, the feature's no longer there. So I had to completely recreate a photo book, some 40, 50 pictures for my brother's 30th.
Man, I can't believe they removed that. I'm sure they didn't sell very many, but I use that feature, at least a couple times a year.
Yeah, right. And I'm not sure it would take a whole lot to support it because it hasn't been drastically overhauled in so long. Surely it's sending PDFs to a print provider somewhere who then spits out the books.
Yeah, that was about to be my question, is if Apple actually did the prints themselves or if they have a third party do it.
I'm not sure about North America, but in Australia, I know that you get it from a Fuji lab, so it's definitely not Apple.
I know when I get them, they at least appear to be shipped from Apple, so I had always been under the impression that they'd printed it themselves, but it could just be being relabeled as well.
Yeah. So they've kind of replaced the feature, and I say kind of, and I think this is more of a bug more than anything. So the actual projects are still in the Photos app, but when you click on them, there's no order button. It's been replaced by a convert button. And if you click on that, it drops down a little menu, and the only thing in the menu is App Store, which then gives you another 5 apps to choose from where you can alternatively get them printed.
Okay.
Only 2 of them were actually valid for printing a photo book. One of them crashed on launch, and the other one I got installed successfully. But when you launched the app, it said, go into Photos and click on the app, but it never showed up anywhere in the Photos app after that. So it's probably just a bug there.
And these were like desktop apps?
Yeah, these are from the Mac App Store. So when you click on Convert, it takes you to the Mac App Store and then offers you 5 different apps. In my case, it's probably regional again.
I had seen an article recently, I don't remember what company, maybe Shutterfly or Photobug or something like that they had duplicated all of Apple's themes from the Photos app. So if you went through them, you could still use all the same themes you're used to using with Apple.
Yeah, that's right. So hopefully if you're trying to keep like a uniformity across your photo books, you might get the same product from them as well.
Right. So yeah, I'm going to have to start exploring my options.
Besides that, the beta went pretty well. I have to say it's a lot faster than High Sierra on my 2016 MacBook Pro. Did you notice the speed increase?
I did notice a slight speed increase. I haven't used my Mac very much, so I probably haven't taken full advantage of the new speed yet, but it's definitely noticeably faster, even just simple animations and stuff.
I'm also getting better battery life out of it as well. I do a pretty specific workload for, work every day. So I know roughly where the battery's going to be, which is normally less than 20% after that 4 hours. But now I'm sitting more like 40%. So it's a pretty decent increase.
Wow. Yeah, that sounds great. So were you unfortunate enough to install Beta 7 on your phone?
I installed it, but I had 0 problems.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it sounds like you might have had some.
I actually didn't install Beta 7. They caught it and pulled it before I had a chance to install it. Mm-hmm. But sounds like it could potentially be something to do with only specific models, and maybe the model iPhone that you have wasn't affected.
Yeah, that's right. So the top comment from Functional Boredom, well, he says it's slow for 5-10 minutes, then back to normal, and that's what a lot of the reports were, that it did go back to normal. And he also says it's more likely an issue with some models, Sprint, CDMA, and AT&T GSM. We don't have any CDMA models in Australia, so
Great.
Yeah, I think we might even have a model that doesn't even ship in the US. So yeah, it could well be that.
I don't know. It sounded pretty unbearable from what I read, though, as far as like significant lag in even just opening basic apps.
That's right. Like it was re-indexing something and just, hitting 100% on the CPU.
Right. What are your thoughts on the removal of group FaceTime?
Well, probably positive. I mean, I've had a pretty bad rough couple of months with FaceTime on the betas. Kind of for a silly reason. At the moment, I'm using FaceTime multiple times a day as a baby monitor. Can you believe?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Because I don't actually need a baby monitor back home. So I never bothered to buy one. So just for this 3 months over summer, I'm using FaceTime every day.
Right.
And at least once every FaceTime call, the call drops out, even over... I mean, this isn't even going via the internet. I'm not sure if it would have to, but it's FaceTime between 2 iOS 12 devices in the house, and the rate of dropping out is insane, especially since FaceTime pre-iOS 12 would pretty much never drop out, even on like a really, really slow connection.
Yeah, I've had pretty similar issues with FaceTime. Since updating iOS 12, it seems like I get a lot of dropping out, or even more frequently, one end will lose connection. So someone will either freeze, or I'll just get the text that says you have a poor connection, and then that'll be, it'll never fix itself until I restart the call. But I don't know. I feel like it's good that they're taking their time to fix this, and removing it probably is the best choice at this point. But it just feels a lot like AirPlay 2 and iMessage in the cloud at this point. So are we going to have to wait till iOS 13 to see it now?
Yeah, iOS 13 is a long way away. At least when iMessages in the cloud and AirPlay 2 came out, they've been pretty solid. You haven't had the normal new feature teething problems that you often have. So, I mean, I do not see myself using like a group FaceTime very often. Right. In fact, the only time I thought of ever using it was when we had 3 people on the show, and I thought, wouldn't that be great? We could just use a group FaceTime audio call to record the show. But now it's the 2 of us. That scenario is out the window as well.
Does group FaceTime support audio-only calls?
I haven't tested it, but I bloody well hope so.
Yeah, I just hadn't thought about it, so I would assume it would.
That'd be a huge oversight if that didn't.
Yeah. You could have a really high-tech baby monitor setup where you have like whatever your phone, whatever, and then multiple iPads around the house all on the FaceTime call.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Every house. Yeah, I've got the phone upstairs, and then I've got like 2 MacBooks and an iPad and another phone spread around each room of the house.
Every room in the house, yeah.
And every other internet function in the house slows down to an absolute crawl. I wonder if it would go via the internet in that case. Probably
I was
would.
going to say, yeah, that's my assumption, is that even in the same house, it's going to have to go through Apple's servers.
Pushing on to the next topic, which is that consumers are far more excited about new iPhones than Samsung's latest flagship, survey shows. That's from 9to5Mac. And this post joins all sorts of Samsung and anti-Samsung posts, which I've seen on the Apple subreddit in the last few weeks. Have you noticed this little trend that's popped up?
I can't say I have, actually.
I think it was in wake of the Samsung, is it the Note 9 that was just released? And then the posts, firstly about the iPhone 10 already being faster than it. And then Samsung released a little ad which mocked Apple, as Samsung ads tend to do.
Yeah, they've got quite a few of those new ingenious ads floating around. I mean, this doesn't surprise me at all. I think this has basically always been the status quo. You know, no one's ever lining up outside of a store to buy the latest Samsung phone. I've also heard, leading up to this Note 9 release, for pretty much the entirety of the year, and especially now afterwards, that Note 9 sales have been steadily declining, and this is most probably going to be the last Note in the series.
Wow, okay. Maybe the trend towards larger and larger phones is on the other end of the bell already, the other side of the bell.
And Apple's still getting there with their allegedly 6.5-inch iPhone this fall.
We'll see.
So, what do you think about the rumors of it supporting an Apple Pencil?
That's crazy talk, in my opinion.
I'm, pretty much in the same boat. I can't see it working comfortably at all.
You're not going to be resting your hand on the phone, so it would have to be on like the table next to it. You can't free float your hand in the air while you're writing, because that just leads to inaccuracies. And unless the phone is even thinner than it is now, that's not going to be comfortable.
Right. I actually had a Note. When I was in college, I had a Note 3, and I tried, just for the heck of it, taking notes in class on it, and I lasted through one class before I decided it was just impossible to try to do anything productive on a phone that small, or just a screen that small, even though it's large for phone standards.
The Note also has a pencil that lives in the body of the phone too, is that right?
Right.
Can you imagine Apple doing that? You know, we've removed the headphone jack to make a little bit of space, but now here's an Apple Pencil tucked down the side.
I feel like if you're going to use an Apple Pencil on the iPhone, they'd have to make a smaller one, because at this point, the Apple Pencil is, significantly larger, at least taller than the iPhone. So I think they would potentially release an iPhone-specific Apple Pencil that maybe doesn't have all the features as the bigger iPad one would. But I feel like Steve Jobs pretty adamantly against styluses, and I can't think of a legitimate reason to actually need one on a phone. So I don't think they're ever going to do that. No,
I'm with you there. Styluses or is it styli, and task managers, and you've killed it. No, what were the exact words? Something like that.
Yeah, it was like, if you see a stylus, you know they failed or something.
Yeah. Just back to the post, I think Adrian in the comments says that basically that consumers are more excited about the iPhone because Apple has the brand loyalty, whereas the opposing team is Android, not Samsung. So, whereas the loyalty that might be placed towards the Note 9 would actually be going towards Google/Android instead of Samsung. And I think that's definitely potentially the case. I know a lot of my friends who are more into tech, and the Android side of it would definitely extol the virtues of Android, not Samsung or HTC or Motorola, whoever makes Android phones.
Yeah, I think Samsung especially is actually more disliked in the Android community than anything because of how much bloat Samsung adds to just the Android OS as a whole. A lot of features that felt gimmicky, I think in the last few years they've cleaned a lot of those out. But I know the last Samsung phone I had was the Note 3. But with the Note 3, I had things like tracking your eyes at all times. So if you looked far enough down the page, it'd auto-scroll a page for you and things like that. And it never worked consistently, and it just was an extra drain on the battery. So I think between degraded battery life and significantly slower performance, trying to support all of these features, like floating your finger over the display to get like a secondary menu, most people that are Android enthusiasts are more Android purists than Samsung advocates.
Yeah, that's right. I think people who have the phones made by Google sort of seem to be much more brand loyal than people who just have a Samsung, because they're people who just, the Samsung people just walked into the shop and bought the best looking phone maybe, whereas the people who own a Nexus are more involved, or what's the word?
It's just more tech literate than someone going in for the newest phone.
Yeah, that could be it. Yeah, without slamming Samsung users, because I'm sure there are tech literate people who've also decided to buy a Samsung on purpose. But you're not listening to this show, are you?
Is there anyone tech literate that would choose Android over Apple?
I guess we can slam some users on this show, can't we?
Well, I think, what was it, like episode 2 or 3 of the podcast, I alleged that Android users weren't real people, so...
Yep, I think that was the title of the show or something like that as well. All right. I think I said Motorola was still a company just 5 minutes ago, but I don't think they are they? Google owns them, and I'm not sure if they have any self-branded phones.
Actually, I don't think Google owns them anymore.
Oh, really?
I think Lenovo owns them now.
I should have never made the correct.
They definitely still make phones, though. Have you seen their newest flagship that's being advertised?
Clearly not.
I'm gonna have to look it up real quick, because it's the Motorola P30. You need to Google this really quick.
That sounds like a submachine gun. That was the P50, wasn't it? Ah, yes. Okay, so I know what you're talking about now. I can't believe I didn't know Motorola was still a company, because I read articles about this phone like literally hours ago.
It's the most obvious ripoff of the iPhone 10 yet, in my opinion.
Yeah. Can you describe it?
I mean, looking at it, it's almost identical, down to the fact that like the wallpaper they're advertising for it is very similar to the wallpaper that Apple has on their iPhones. The screen shape is identical. It's got a very similar sized notch, and yet still manages to have a chin as well. The rear camera is oriented vertically the same way, with the flash in the middle and the 2 lenses on either side. And the only difference is it's got a fingerprint sensor where the Apple logo usually is.
This is a quote from Daring Fireball. Do designers, in quotes, at Motorola even list the job on their resume, or do they just work in anonymous shame?
I had seen a quote recently, and I don't remember where it came from now, was that Johnny Ive is the chief design officer of the entire mobile phone industry.
Except Samsung, because they don't line up ports on the bottom of their phone. It's not symmetrical.
Yeah. Well, have you seen all the leaks of the new Google Pixel 3 coming out this fall?
No, I missed those.
Well, of course, Google's embracing the notch as well with the Pixel 3, except it's significantly larger. It's like twice as tall as the iPhone 10 notch. And it also still manages to have a chin as well as this huge notch on the front of the phone.
Wow.
So, yeah, you have to take a look at the Pixel 3. Like, it's been leaked so much that there's actually been people unboxing it already.
When's the release date?
I think it's a few months away still. I know it comes after the iPhone announcement.
Have you seen the mock-up iPhone 10 units that people like MKBHD have their hands on? I'm not sure if he's commissioned that or if someone's just given it to him. But besides not actually powering up to anything, the units look pretty slick.
Yeah, it's actually made me a lot more excited to get the plus-size model this fall.
Oh, really? Going plus size. Did you have like a 7 Plus before this?
Yeah, I've always gotten the plus-size models since the 6 Plus. And never really for the screen size. I actually am a pretty big fan of smaller phone. But only because Apple's always had feature exclusivity on all the models. Like, for a long time, optical stabilization was only a plus size. The biggest thing for me, though, was just the bigger battery. Especially when the iPhone 6 first came out. I used my phone pretty heavily, and I never consistently made it through a day with my 5S. As a matter of fact, I had a big battery case on my 5S to double the battery life, and it still never really made it through the day for me.
The only battery case I ever bought was the one that Apple makes, and that was on my, I guess it was the 6, maybe 6S though. You know, the little camel hump on the back.
Yeah.
But yeah, shortly after that I upgraded to the Plus and got rid of the case.
How did that case feel? I never got a chance to try it out.
It was amazing. It was the best battery case I've ever put on my phone, because you can just, you know, normally when you hold a phone these days, your pinky rests underneath on the speaker grill.
Right.
With the battery pack, it's perfectly placed so that your pinky, or the battery would rest on your pinky instead, and actually meant that your thumb was free to to access way more of the phone.
I remember so many people hated it and said that Apple had lost all their design sense when that case was first announced. But I've heard nothing but glowing reviews from people who've actually used it.
Yeah, it really was an excellent case.
I wish I would have made one for the plus size phones too, because I probably would have got it.
That would have been huge. It would have been like a brick in your pocket.
So, I know when they were announced, I was working a job where I really couldn't use my office computer for anything above or outside of my exact work description. I was in a medical environment, so it's kind of really a lockdown system. So I was streaming music and internet radio via my phone nonstop all day, and my battery very quickly ran down. So I definitely would have got a battery case even if it was huge.
Speaking of charging, we could probably just move on to the next topic, which is that 2018 iPhones to support wireless charging and AirPower will be available this fall from $150, which I'll just add that is spot on what you said it would be. And I'll also add that the top comment is pretty funny. All 2017 iPhones support wireless charging.
Yeah, I'm surprised this is a headline.
Yeah. It sounds like a good headline, you have to say. If you don't think about it for more than 2 seconds, it's a good headline.
Wow, all of them are going to this time?
Not like last year.
I feel like this is alluding to either, I don't think we're going to see one, but an updated iPhone SE, or I think more likely they're dropping the SE line. So all phones coming out will then support AirPower just because they're dropping the ones that don't.
Yeah, in my books, these SE and C models are using up leftover inventory, and for either that's on a shelf somewhere, or that's been ordered and is in oversupply, or along those lines. So I don't see them adding wireless charging to an old phone unless it's some sort of complete redesign.
Yeah, I've seen some people debating on the merits of keeping around an iPhone SE here in the last... Well, actually, it's probably been the last couple of years people have been talking about wanting an updated SE. But especially since the 10 launched, people keep saying what they really want is an SE with the edge-to-edge display as well. But I think that defeats what little purpose SE had of being kind of a cheaper phone. I think you're not going to get a cheap phone with the iPhone 10 technology in it.
No, the cheap phone is going to be the form factor and style of the 6, 7, and 8.
Right. And with this year's lineup, I mean... they're gonna drop the 6S, so their entry level cheapest phone they keep around will presumably be the iPhone 7, which is still a really, really good phone.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's only it's not even 2 years. It's just coming up on 2 years old.
Yeah.
Yasmin has a 7 Plus at the moment, which is my old phone, and it's rock solid. It just it feels almost as fast as a 10. I mean, if it had the fluid swiping motions, the gestures to interact with the phone, I would say it would probably feel as fast as the 10.
Yeah. With how far ahead Apple's getting with their processor speeds, I mean, even though every year it gets a pretty significant boost, it's really unnecessary because they already meet and exceed the needs of most standard functions of the phone at this point.
Moving on to the wireless charging part of this article. So yeah, 150's spot on what you guessed it would be. I think my guess was 99 US, 129 Australian. So I might be falling a little bit short. One of the comments I thought was funny, I haven't written it down, but it was something along the lines of Apple always finds the just below the limit of absurdity for charging for their products.
I mean, I've made the case for this price point for a long time, so I'm not going to rehash that, but I think it's actually more reasonable than people are making it out to be.
And speaking of cases, I think we'll get a wireless charging case for AirPods as well, which will be nice.
Yeah, that has to be ready to go at this point.
It's got to have been sitting on shelves for 12 months.
Yeah, you'd think they're pretty much been ready to go since they announced it, and it's just been the mat itself that's holding them up.
Yeah, I think the charging case is probably the easiest component to have made out of everything.
I've seen some interesting thoughts in the last few months talking about maybe Apple had always planned to announce or actually release AirPower about a month or a year after it being announced, because when it was announced, they were still in really early discussions with the Qi Charging Consortium in adopting their standard in this mat, and they knew once these agreements were being made that it was going to be leaked anyway, but also that maybe they made this announcement really early on to try to push the consortium to really let them adopt this standard the way they want and make the tweaks they want to make to it, because of kind of just popular demand at that point, instead of trying to do it all behind closed doors and just being told no.
It sounds like a likely theory. I'm not sure if a consortium is the kind of group you can talk to with an NDA hanging above the whole conversation, is it?
Right. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly how that would have all worked out, but that's the latest thing I've heard, at least.
One of the comments in the thread from Glenna is, another question is how iPads will support wireless charging. Do you ever picture an iPad charging through a wireless charger at a measly, 7.5 watts? Or will AirPower support 10? Can't remember which it will be. I think the current ones in the Apple Store are 7.5 at the limit.
Right. There is a faster wireless charging standard than the 7.5 that the iPhones don't support, but I'm sure if they were to add wireless charging to the iPad, it would hopefully get that faster standard. I don't know. I feel like it could potentially be possible. My initial thoughts on it were a tablet with a glass back would be extremely fragile. But did you see the latest Samsung Galaxy Tab that they just released like a couple weeks ago?
How are you so up on all this non-Apple news? You're putting me to shame.
I'm just a tech news follower more than specifically Apple. But yeah, just out of the blue, not having released a tablet for a few, like actual premium tablet for a few years. They've had really cheap consumer ones, like in the couple $100 price range. But they just released a new Galaxy Tab. I think it's the S4, which that's an indication of how far behind they are. Yeah, the Tab S4, and it has a glass front and back, and its big feature that they're touting is it has their support for kind of like a desktop operating system. I don't know if you've ever seen the Galaxy Dex, but you can plug a Samsung phone basically into a computer monitor, and it makes kind of a mock desktop OS with your Android apps, and this tablet just supports it on the device itself.
That sounds genius. Yeah, imagine having your entire computer just in your pocket and you just dock it when you need to use like a full OS.
Yeah, that's kind of their vision. Unfortunately, this brand new flagship tablet that they're charging flagship prices for uses a processor that is a few weeks away from being 2 years old at this point. So it's kind of hurting their justification for having a new flagship tablet. That and
sounds like they had some inventory they needed to move.
Maybe, because no one makes Android tablets anymore, which means no app developers are making Android apps that support the tablet form factor. Not that they ever really did. But especially now, you're not going to get much support for your tablet, and it ships with Oreo instead of Pi, and you're pretty much guaranteed to never see Pi, I feel like, from Samsung at this point. So anyway, but more to my point is that it is apparently possible to do tablets with glass backs, and whether or not they hold up, I don't know, but it seems kind of silly to me.
Yeah, the iPad has just destroyed the tablet market. That's kind of the only thing that's left. Similar goes for the Apple Watch and Android Wear, although I know Samsung has just released, here's a bit of news that I do know, it just released, or announced at least, a new Android Wear watch, which looks pretty neat.
What's it called?
Oh, no.
It's a Galaxy Watch.
Is it? Probably.
Yeah, they changed it from all their wearables have been named like Gear, like Gear S3 or whatever, but they've rebranded to the Galaxy Watch, but basically just repackaged last year's Gear Watch, so we're not making much progress on that front either.
Right. Okay, I don't really remember last year's watch, so I wasn't sure that it hadn't been updated. They also announced the Galaxy Home as well.
Yeah. Have you seen pictures of that?
Yeah, it looks like a little alien on 3 legs, or like a little Google Home, the original Google Home on 3 legs.
I thought it looked like a little barbecue grill, but...
Yeah.
I can't imagine anyone enjoys Bixby enough to want to pay like $300, because they're going after the same market the HomePod is in with high-quality audio. So
I've never used Bixby, but I know it's worse than Siri, so it's got to be pretty bad.
Yeah. And I feel like, Apple was late to the smart speaker market, but Samsung is, like, at this point, if someone wants a smart speaker, they already have it.
Yeah, they might have missed like the original gold rush or whatever you would call it, but I don't know, when good products come out, it doesn't really matter how early or late they are. It's a good product, it's going to sell, and eventually it'll make some ground in the market.
But you remember we're talking about Samsung, right?
Yeah, if it's a good product. I wasn't referring specifically to the Galaxy Home.
But yeah, I don't know. I know the biggest thing about Bixby that I've heard is just that people remapping the Bixby button on their Samsung phones to the Google Assistant. So I can't imagine.
How could you not? There's no competition.
Yeah. Well, and Samsung doesn't natively support it, so you have to, I think, kind of root your phone to even do that. Like, that's one of the buttons they don't let you change. So the fact that people are going out of their way even to not use Bixby. There's no way that anyone's going to be lining up for this Bixby smart speaker.
Unless they're in a market for a Weber and they just get confused. Anyway, let's push on. Let's stop bashing Samsung. So the next article is happy 20th launch anniversary to the iMac. So these are the original iMacs, which was it originally just in Bondi Blue and then it came out in the other colours, or was launch all the colours? And I'm asking you because I know you are a Mac history guy.
Yeah, the colors came out in waves. Bondi Blue was the original color, but the picture here in the article with the blue, they're all fruit flavors. I'm trying to remember now. It's the grape, orange, lime, and cherry colors. Those all came out very quickly after, and that's basically considered the launch-ish lineup of the iMac. And then after that, it came in some really weird things like flower power, which was mostly a white case but with flowers all over it. There was like a darker blue color and a solid white called the Snow iMac. I mean, it had a lot of options in its four-year life. So,
did you ever own one when they were current?
I never owned one when they were new. I have like 5 or 6 now. And actually,
5 or 6.
Yeah, well, a school was getting rid of a handful of their iMacs from a computer lab, so I just took all of them. But my very first experience with an Apple computer was an iMac G3, and that is definitely what got me into being an Apple fan. So, but I didn't use the G3 iMac until 2006 was my first time, so it was pretty well past its prime at that point. But it was my first time ever seeing Mac OS, and I was just blown away by the operating system compared to Windows, and I've been hooked ever since.
The first Mac that blew me away was actually the next iMac, the iMac G4. If you remember that, it was like a little snow dome with the stalk and then the LCD monitor sitting on top. That was, an amazing computer.
Yeah, that's still probably my favorite design.
Yeah, incredible. And the little speakers, the little, spheres that sit next to it.
Yeah, I've actually got one here next to me that I've put an SSD in, and even today, I mean, it boots in less than 15 seconds. It's still incredibly fast. So I use it for like really basic, like making Word documents or something if I want a mostly distraction-free environment.
So the G4 was the first one you could dual boot into OS 10. Is that what you're running?
Yeah, the G4 is running OS 10. You could run OS 10 on the G3 as well, though.
Could you? Okay.
Yeah, it had to be one of the later models that had a faster CPU, but yeah, they could run OS 10.
Okay. Joby1 Kenobi notes that it had the worst mouse ever. I don't remember it being that bad. I'm not sure if he's referring to the puck or just the clear single button mouse, though, with the 2 little squeeze buttons on the side.
I think it's definitely the puck design. It's kind of a meme to hate on that. I agree that I don't think they're that bad, and I kind of enjoy using them just for nostalgic reason. But yeah, even when it came out, no one really liked the puck mouse. There was a whole accessory market just for like these snap-on plastic covers that turned the puck mouse into more of a standard shaped mouse.
That sounds horrible. It was quite wide, I remember.
Yeah, it was fairly wide. Yeah. So, but there was, I can't remember the name of the company anymore. But it snapped on and kind of added a tapered back to it, so you had somewhere to rest your palm.
It wasn't 12 South, was it? Was it? Because they've been making things that tack onto Macs for years.
No. Man, I'm trying to Google it now to remember the name of the. I'm sure it's long gone at this point. Yeah, I Google Mac and it's like giving me USB accessories, even though I have puck mouse adapter. But oh well.
There was actually a comment in this thread. Someone is still hating on the fact that there was no floppy drive in these Macs.
Really?
I gotta find it. It was so funny. This comment is today. Would it have killed Apple to give us a floppy disk? And what about our ADB and serial ports? I get that USB is the future, but now I have to deal with USB dongles for my zip drive. I have to think this person is trolling to still be hating on that fact.
Oh yeah.
I don't think. Yeah.
But that was a really common complaint, though. Same way that dropping the CD drive on the MacBook Air was a huge complaint. I mean, Apple has a history of pushing new technologies like USB-C. This isn't new for them. So even on the original Macintosh, supporting 3.5-inch floppies over standard 5 1/4 at the time was kind of a big deal.
As one of the commenters, Crow Quillpen, says that the The original iMac had infrared ports, though. Did anyone ever use them? So they got rid of the floppy, but they had infrared ports.
Yeah, that was a feature they kept around for a long time. I think the MacBook Pros up until the Retina refresh had IR ports on them, and the Mac Minis and all the iMacs up until, I think it's when they went with the edge-to-edge glass. So the 2008 iMac had a small aluminum border around the actual glass in the display, and then the next revision, which I think was 2012, got rid of that border and just had edge-to-edge glass, and I think that's the same time they got rid of IR. I
think the plastic iMacs, and I'm talking about like the G6, I guess, actually came with a little remote control as well.
Yeah, it's for their software suite called Front Row. Did you ever use that?
Yeah, I did. It was my home media solution for about 2 seconds before I realized it wasn't that great.
I never actually played with it, but it seemed kind of cool at the time, and it was a big enough deal that they kept it around for a long time, over a decade.
Yeah, I mean, it could have gone somewhere, but it never even supported like anything besides H.265, like MP4s, I think. Like you couldn't play an MKV in it. So yeah, I think once MKVs became the default for people watching videos online, I think that died then.
And once they released the Apple TV, there really wasn't a reason to try to have the computers do home media center as well in that way.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Have you ever actually sat down and watched the keynote where Steve Jobs announced the G3 iMacs?
G3? No, probably not.
I mean, it's pretty good. It's a pretty significant point in Apple's history. This computer pretty much single-handedly took Apple from a few weeks from bankruptcy to what they are today. When Steve Jobs came in, I don't know the exact number, but Apple was like a month away from being insolvent. And he cut up back their entire product line and released this G3 iMac that put them back on the map. And actually, the G3 iMac was just a repackaged existing computer they already had. It was the Macintosh G3 all-in-one. It's really commonly called the molar Mac because it's shaped like a tooth. But it's actually, in some sense, a more powerful iMac G3 because it had CD drive and a floppy drive in it. And it had a really powerful video capture card that allowed you to I guess video capture card is pretty self-explanatory, but you could plug in an external device and view it on your Macintosh and record whatever that device is doing. So, but in establishing what then became standard Apple fashion, they cut back a bunch of features and marketed it as a new product.
Yeah, Steve Jobs was king of cutting things back.
Yeah.
That's around the time when he had the little, the quadrant of products that Apple sold. They went from, I'm not sure what you'd call a little thing with like 25 squares on it, but they cut that back to four product lines.
Yeah, they're Pro and Consumer, and then Desktop and Portable. So,
and they're not too far from that at the moment.
Yeah, they're getting close. They need to cut one of their laptops out of the lineup, but that and I guess their desktop lineup is a little interesting.
Shambles.
Yeah.
What was the first first Mac that you ever used? And I have a reason for asking this, which you'll find out in a second.
So, the first Mac I remember using was the G3 iMac. But I also know that growing up, my mom managed a medical office, and I know they had all Macintoshes. But those were the early 90s, just beige boxes that didn't look any different than any other computer. So I probably didn't even notice I was using a Mac if I was playing on those at any point.
I actually found a video of me way back when using the first ever Mac. And first ever computer I've ever used, actually, which was a Macintosh SE. Just an SE, not an SE2.
There wasn't an SE2.
Oh, there you go. Right, it was definitely an SE then. But anyway, I thought, this is a kind of a tangent, but I thought this would be hilarious. In this video, you can hear what I sounded like as probably a 4-year-old.
Oh, okay.
So I just got some audio from it. I don't know why I sounded like this, but this is my voice as a 4-year-old.
Has your mommy got a new baby? Yes. Then she can't walk up the hill because our mummy couldn't walk up the hill. But James, the mummy spider's baby is out of her tummy.
And that's me as a 4 or 5-year-old.
That's great. I can't believe you found a video of that.
I know, yeah. I'm sitting at the computer. I can send this little 15-second video to you, but I'm sitting at the Mac SE drawing in Mac Paint with my brother and someone else there. I'm not sure who.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, totally bogan Australian kid.
That was one of those new words that I learned that I had no idea what it meant.
Oh, did you learn it from me or somewhere else?
Yeah, I think it was in that episode where we kind of went over Australian phrases that didn't make it to the US.
For everyone else, a little Australian redneck.
Yeah. So, well, if you need another SE, I have about 30. So I can send one. I'm trying to get rid of them.
Yeah, do. If you can get me a shipping quote. Is it functional or what?
Oh, yeah. I fix them up, but I just have an entire closet stacked with them that I really don't want to move with me the next time I move, so I'm trying to get rid of them.
I bet the international shipping would kill this idea, but it's probably worth looking at now.
All right. Yeah, I'll look into it. And if it's too ridiculous, I'll probably post one to you in a few weeks when you're back in Australia.
Nice.
So.
Vaguely related to this is that there is a Kickstarter called the Iconic Pillow Collection by Throwboy. For anyone who's interested, it's 5 or 6 of the old classic Macs in pillow form. It's from a reputable pillow maker, so I don't think it's one of these Kickstarters that just fades away into nothing. But that looks pretty cool if you want to check it out.
I have not seen that.
Yep, just look it up. The Iconic Pillow Collection by Throwboy. While you do that, let's just push on to the next topic, which is that a job posting, I love these ones, job posting indicates Apple is blah, blah, blah. In this case, it's Apple is looking to improve Apple ID and make UI changes to iCloud. As one of their comments say, either that or the last person quit, which I couldn't help but laugh out loud at. Because the iCloud website, I don't remember the last time it had a drastic update, because it's been more or less since, the design of it I'm talking about here. Besides changing the wallpaper once or twice, it hasn't really changed, except for the addition of new features, such as iWork came a couple of years ago, and Photos, Photos in the Cloud, iCloud Photo Library, which are all nice additions, and iCloud Drive is there as well. But it's still a pretty, I don't know how to describe it. Since the first day that it launched, it's always felt kind of like you're dragging your mouse through a little bit of mud when you're trying to do anything on the site.
Yeah, it's never definitely been up to the standard I would expect from Apple. But maybe that's a little deliberate because they don't want someone on Windows to have access to their software suite at really high quality and think, this is great, I don't need to buy a Mac now because I have, Pages and Keynote right here in the browser and it's just as good.
I don't think that's how software works though. It's more along the lines of, Apple makes crap software, I'm definitely not buying a Mac.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that iCloud's never been quite to the standards I would hope it'd be. And hopefully this will make a difference. But Apple's online offerings have always been just a mess. When did you get in on using Apple's online services?
Not that long ago, and just to stab a guess at it, I would say probably the launch of iCloud, or maybe, probably the launch of iCloud. I can say my primary email address is an @me address, not an @iCloud address. But I'm pretty sure iCloud originally shipped with @me addresses, not @iCloud. Certainly wasn't @Mac or whatever the ones before that were.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there was .Mac, and there was iTools, and MobileMe.
iTools.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I got in pretty much the same time. I was running, whatever that was. What version of iOS did iCloud launch with? You remember?
4 or 5, I think.
Yeah, I was around there. I was on the beta of that, which at the time was way harder to do, to get a beta of something if you weren't a developer. But I signed up for iCloud pretty early on. Before the actual public release, because I was going through the beta. So I also have a @me email address because of that. But I was thinking back to the MobileMe. Steve Jobs fired the entire MobileMe team when MobileMe was failing so spectacularly. And so saying that maybe they quit, I said maybe they went back and fired the entire iCloud team to make something better.
I'd never heard that story about the firing of the mobile team.
Apple was getting trashed for reviews, and this is just allegedly what I've heard, but I've heard it consistently from a lot of sources. Steve Jobs called in the entire MobileMe team and sat them down, and he said, "What is MobileMe supposed to do?" And he had the entire team tell him what MobileMe was supposed to do, and they responded, "Well, then why the F doesn't it do that?" And then he fired all of them.
Gold.
Yeah, pretty classic Steve Jobs thing. I totally believe that he did that. So,
speaking of problems with cloud services, I think the biggest downside right now to iCloud services is sharing between people. So basically iCloud Drive's comparison against Dropbox, and iCloud Drive falls quite short. For instance, after every podcast that we record, you send me a link to the audio file via iCloud Drive. I've got 2 options. One is open and one is not now. I'm not sure what not now does, but I'm pretty sure it doesn't download it. If I click open, it saves the audio file in the root directory of my iCloud Drive, like not in documents or desktop or in a folder for QuickTime or whatever, just in the root directory, which a lot of people don't know how to get to.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, let's not change that process. It works, but compared to something like Dropbox, where it launches Safari and then starts downloading, and it's a process that everyone's familiar with, and it's not that smooth.
Yeah, just in general, like, you can only upload or download single files at a time from iCloud. You can't like upload a folder or share a folder or anything like that. It's really bare bones. I mean, they're definitely overdue for some usability updates and more features in iCloud Drive.
Yeah, there seem to be back-end updates every time macOS gets released, because things seem to work slightly better. But I still have random problems, like sometimes Logic Pro takes 2 hours to launch because I try to launch it and it actually goes and grabs like the last 10 Logic Pro projects from iCloud Drive, which is like 15 gigabytes worth of files. So it does do ridiculous things like that. Maybe that's Logic Pro, I'm not sure. But it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I've never encountered that. But that's pretty interesting.
It is what it is. I mean, the less you talk about iCloud, I feel like that's the better it's doing, because it's kind of something that it should connect your services and it should sync between, your computer and your phone and your Mac and your TV and whatever, and it shouldn't be something you have to maintain or monitor or troubleshoot. The better it's doing, the less we talk about it.
Which I think in general, I mean, iCloud definitely doesn't have some of the features I want to have, but I don't very frequently have to try to troubleshoot or find missing files or things like that. It seems to do a pretty good job keeping things in sync, at least for me.
The biggest troubleshooting thing I have to do, and this is something that a lot of people harped on about, is when relatives come to me and say, why does my phone tell me I've run out of storage? I've deleted all my photos and it still says it. And of course, what has run out of storage? Their 5 gigabytes of free iCloud storage is gone.
Right. Which it's not, I mean, I pay for whatever the biggest tier is. It's only like $2 a month. So I think it's definitely worth it.
No, it's not. It's like $15 a month for 2 TB.
Oh, it's not?
Yes, it is.
There's no way. Maybe I just don't pay attention, or maybe their prices are way higher for you.
It's not $2 though. I'm just going to search my mail for 2 TB Apple, see what comes up.
I'm going into my managed storage options on my phone now.
Here we go. iCloud 2 TB storage plan, $14.99 Australian, which is roughly probably about $10.88.
Yeah, $10 a month is what I'm paying for my 2 terabytes. Okay, so more than I was thinking, but I think still reasonable.
Oh yeah, it's very reasonable in my books. I'm happy to pay it. And of course, if you're in a family plan, that 2 TB's for the whole family, as well as the cost.
Which I actually wouldn't like. I'd rather pay for extra storage for other people because I use all those 2 terabytes.
Serious? You've got everything in iCloud?
I've got quite a bit in iCloud, yeah. So, I mean, my friends and I used to make a lot of YouTube videos, and I have every video file we've ever recorded since 2006 still. So I have like 8 terabytes of external storage on my computer that I also have that stores most of the information that I can't carry around with me. And iCloud is just the things that I want to have access to on the go. Okay,
yeah. Once you start talking about video files, it adds up pretty quickly, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, that and just photos and videos on my iPhone. I tend to like to keep them downloaded, like any photos that I take, instead of having to try to load them from iCloud whenever I'm viewing my photo library. And just my photos alone have used up my entire phone storage. So...
Yeah, I'm long past the download a local copy of photos setting.
Yeah.
I went out the window. Yeah.
So I'm really excited for hopefully a 512 iPhone this year.
Yeah, would you pick that up? Because that's going to be expensive.
That's okay. I could use it. So I'm at like 200 gigabytes on my phone right now. So I need the space.
Actually, since like iCloud Photo Library and iCloud Drive and stuff have improved, I have moved more and more away from local storage and into optimization. And I've started buying smaller iPhones. I think I might have maybe a 128 iPhone 10. I'm not sure if it came in 64, but...
The iPhone 10 only came in 64 and 256.
Oh, okay. Maybe I'm lying to myself then, because I probably wouldn't have got 64. Let's have a quick look. I've got 256. All right.
Yeah.
I'll cut that part out of the show. All right. Yeah, we've pushed over an hour. Should we call it a show?
I think sounds good.
All right. I'm James VDM on Reddit and Twitter.
And I'm Jellywoot on Reddit and Twitter.
And if you'd like to visit our Patreon, it's patreon.com/the R Apple Show. And that's the show.